Welcome to another episode of Health Creators. Joining me here today is Chris Williams, founder and CEO of Tiga Health, bringing home care to the elderly. Hey, Chris.
Hey.
So let's start off by asking you a question about what made you start this company.
Yeah, of course. So essentially, when I left my last business, I was looking for something new to do. In fact, I even spoke to you about some ideas you were working on at the time.
Yeah.
And during that time, my mother needed some care at home. She developed a rare condition called trigeminal neuralgia, which is basically shooting nerve pain in the face. And these bouts of pain could last from 30 seconds to months on end. And it became clear quite quickly that I wasn't in a position to help her with this. And I started looking for care. And when I was looking for care, I quickly realized that there weren't enough people operating in the space in London. There was a huge shortage of providers. And I thought, having had a background in healthcare for some time, maybe I should just give this a try instead.
And so I guess it was taking your experience of finding care. And was it like out of frustration as well, where you were like, this current process just doesn't work and I need to build something that does work? And how would you say what you've built is different to the experience that you had?
Yeah, of course. So I think most care companies are set up to support one of three patient groups. So we've got elderly people mainly with dementia, we've got adults with learning disabilities, and we've got people with spinal and brain injuries. There weren't really any providers for rare diseases and indications that less commonly need care at home. So that was one of the things I went straight after. And a lot of our marketing goes after rare diseases. And we're very proud to support people with rare diseases. I think what really differentiates us in the beginning was we gave all of our carers electric bikes, which reduced late and missed appointments due to busy London traffic. We all know about that. So actually improved the quality of care we were offering. Nowadays, I'd say we're more differentiated by the tools we use behind the scenes to qualify leads and also make quicker judgments on whether care staff are appropriate candidates for the job.
I see. I guess it's also like empowering the elderly, right? Mm-hmm. Because one thing that I noticed having like worked in a care home before is once you're checked into a facility, you almost lose that agency and autonomy over your own life. And I guess people want to extend the number of years they can actually live in their own home and feel like, you know, an adult in their own home. Mm-hmm. So is that also one of the reasons why you do this and you make it easier for people?
Absolutely. I mean, patient outcomes at home are significantly better than they are in a care home. There's been a lot of research on that and it's very well documented. But I think the other reason is it's not just about autonomy, but it's also about making sure people stay connected with their local community. And that's what a lot of people that we support really value. We've even had clients that were with us, have gone to a care home and then come back. And it's quite uncommon that people return from a care home back to their home, but the service we offer does enable people to do that.
I guess one question is, do you not see like a benefit to being in, a community within the care home? Because I guess it's almost like how I like to see it's almost like boarding school for elderly people where you can like go in and then you meet a bunch of people who are like your age. And I'm not sure how similar the problem is here, but in Asia, for example, Japan, we see a lot of issues with people, who are above a certain age feeling very lonely. And actually in Japan, there's like a huge outbreak of crime in like the elderly community because they want to get arrested to be part to be part of a community, to feel like less lonely, you know?
That's interesting. I can't say any of my clients have been arrested. But I can say that one of the services we offer is companionship.
Oh, cool.
So loneliness is definitely an issue that many elderly people face in the UK. We do have clients where we just come in a couple of times a week And, I'm not sure I'd call it care. There's no personal care involved.
Yeah.
It's more just going to the shops, going for a walk in the park, having a cup of tea, and just general companionship.
I see. And did you build out that companionship model because you noticed that people were feeling lonely as well?
I think so. I mean, I think often the way business comes to us is a child of an elderly person is concerned about their mum and dad, or they've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or a similar condition, which they know is only going to get worse. And they like having someone come in a couple of times a week and offer this companionship, because one, it will help slow down the decline of a condition like dementia. And two, it gets mum or dad used to having someone in their home before things might get more complicated.
I see. So they can kind of get accustomed to having someone new around.
Exactly. It's not uncommon for clients to be a bit uncertain at first. They might have lived a very long life in their home with no assistance whatsoever. And it's a really big change. And so sometimes doing things slowly and gradually is a way of making people feel more comfortable.
And is there also a taboo, do you think, when people first get started with care, when people talk about, do I need therapy or not? Is it kind of like that, where there's a bit of stigma around do I need care or can I take care of myself?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we actually ask all of our clients if they're happy for our staff to wear a uniform when they visit, because sometimes people are worried that the neighbours will see they have care. And I think that's partly because of a potential stigma and wanting to appear strong and independent to their neighbours.
Yeah.
But I also think for some people, they worry about potential security risk. If someone's going in a Tiggo Care uniform, and we know our logo is bright orange, it's very it's very obvious.
Yeah.
They're worried that might alert potential thieves that there's someone living here that could be an easy target. So we always double check if they're happy with the uniform. And I think, I do think stigma plays a large part of that.
I see. And do you think there's also stigma, and we talked about this right before, but is there stigma around elderly care because it's not really talked about?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a subject that's not usually talked about. I mean, if you look at the press in the UK, you'll find endless articles every day about the NHS, but you won't find too much about the care sector. And if you do, it's probably about the social care sector, which is only a small segment of it. So I do think there needs to be more of a conversation so people can understand the challenges and really understand not just the challenges, but the benefits of it. I see so many people who start with our service and they really regret not starting sooner. But that's because they thought the only option was to go into a care home. And that's something they didn't want to do.
I didn't know that, elderly care was not provided for by the government. Yeah. Because, in the UK, we have cradle to grave, right? With NHS care. So I just automatically assumed that care for the elderly would be included in that. And then I'm not sure how it works in the US, but I know that people have their 401k, with retirement funds.
Yeah.
And I guess they use that to pay for services like this.
That's true. And from what I don't know the US market too well, but I also understand there's a lot of insurance that covers care as well. So I'd say there's probably more funding available for care in the US. In the UK, there's really only three payers. There's the private individuals, which is the majority of my clients, the local authority, and that will tend to be what you would think of as social care, and that's means tested and needs tested. And I can't remember the exact figure off the top of my head, but I think it's around £27,000. If you have more than £20,000, then you won't pass the means test.
I see.
And obviously that's...
But in your savings or per annum?
In your net worth.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's not a huge amount of money. And so most people find they have to pay for the care. The other option is NHS funded care, through the Continuing Healthcare Fund, but that can be a lengthy application process and is very much dependent on your own needs. And I can say most of our clients, despite having dementia, diabetes, heart disease, all sorts of conditions, don't qualify.
So most of your customers are private, essentially.
Exactly.
And you were mentioning something earlier about how there may be a new regulation that could cover some of this care.
Yeah, that's correct. I know when Boris Johnson was still the Prime Minister, however long ago that was now, it's hard to keep track, isn't it, of UK politics? He said that he was going to introduce a cap such that people wouldn't have to spend more than, I think it was around £80,000 in their lifetime on care. And any care that was required after that would be paid for by the government. But obviously, there's been a lot of change since then. It looks like Labour might get into power next. So I'm unsure whether that will come into effect. I'm also unsure as to how that would work in a residential care setting, like a care home or a nursing home, because how can you calculate what proportion of that is a care service and what proportion of that is, rent? And so it makes me think that it's possible that it won't save people that much money in the long run.
Yeah, because how much would you typically pay? Like, let's say even like a traditional care home setting, like for 1 year of care. So
I think the lowest rates I've seen are £1,000 a week, so that'd be 52 grand a year.
Okay.
And the highest I've seen, which is a very nice facility in Battersea, is about £6,000 a week.
Oh shit!
So it really does vary.
So you could pay like $300K a year.
Yeah.
Like every year after like a certain age for care.
Exactly, and it can be many, many years as well.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like the last 10, 20 years of your life.
Exactly.
Crazy.
I should say it's normally cheaper to go through a care service like ours. So with us, a living care package can start from as little as £1,250 per week. And with that, you've got a dedicated 24/7 care assistant who's there to support you during the night, during the day. I personally think it's a better option because you've got someone around. You don't have to move home. You feel more comfortable. And also because it's just one individual, you don't have to meet lots of new people either, which can be true in a care home.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's lots of options out there. And that's my preference, but obviously I'm a bit biased.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing I always found interesting about the UK, because I worked in a care home here before, and I could never imagine sending my parents to something like that, because in Asia and in Chinese culture, that's like unheard of, essentially. Right. Like it's quite rare, because usually you essentially have your parents and your grandparents live with you.
Yep.
And then you essentially are the carer.
Yeah.
But what would be, your opposition to that?
I mean, I don't know if I have an opposition to that. I think that is a fantastic way of supporting elderly generations. I just think we don't have that culture in the UK. We don't even really have the housing for it in the UK. I mean, a lot of our clients have to move downstairs because of reduced mobility.
Yeah.
I find it hard to see how the UK is built to really support a larger household where children can do that. Also, I don't know too much about life in China, but I do know a lot of our clients' children who come to us. They don't even have the time, even if their parents did live with them, because they're juggling careers. They've got lots of children in school, and those tend to be the people who are coming to us for help, because they can't provide that support. So I don't know. I think the way that you describe it in China does sound great, and it's a shame that we don't have that sort of culture here or the infrastructure for it.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know, because I guess there's a difference between caring for someone who's elderly and caring for someone who has like a specific condition, because you might not actually understand the intricacies of their condition and how to best care for them.
That's true. That's completely true. And it does get more complicated as people have conditions such as Alzheimer's. I can see people often getting quite frustrated as their loved one struggles to communicate or misremembers things. And having someone around who can really help go through that process in an understanding manner, repeat things in a different way, speak in a certain manner so it's easier to understand. It does go a long way to everyone's peace of mind, both the children and their parents.
And to what extent do people come to you after, a situation happens? Like, what's a really common accident or situation that happens where it triggers people to, start looking and searching for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say there's one thing that stands out above all else, and that is a fall in the night. So if someone needs to go to the loo regularly during the night, I think I've read it increases your chance of a fall by, I think it was 80%. So quite significantly. And normally when that happens, someone will be admitted to hospital. Hopefully they've not done anything too serious. But once they're discharged, they'll get 6 weeks of reablement care from the NHS. And during that time, most people involved, the children and the individual themselves, will see a huge benefit because they've got someone coming in for maybe a short amount of time, maybe just 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. And once that 6 weeks is up, they start to think, you know what, maybe we should try and continue that. And that's often when they pick up the phone and call a company like ours.
And do your carers live in the home of the person?
Good question. So I suppose with care, it's broken into two sections. So you've got your living carers, which will live in the home 24/7. And then you've got your domiciliary visits, and they might pop by for 2 hours, or in some cases it's as long as 12 hours. And that really depends on, well, firstly, whether you've got a spare room for them to sleep in. And then secondly, on the amount of care that's required and why you're engaging a company like ours. Some people do it for peace of mind. Some people do it out of necessity because mum or dad is unable to wash themselves. So it really depends what you're looking for at that stage.
Cool. And how do you actually make sure these carers care?
Okay, yeah.
Because it is a job at the end of the day. And if I'm just getting paid to go and, take care of people, but there's actually no one monitoring what I'm doing. I'm not in a social environment like a care home where, other people are monitoring and there's that sanity check. How do you make sure that when it's just me and the vulnerable person that I'm not going to, do anything bad?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's no short answer to that because there's a lot of things that we do. So I suppose it all begins with...
Toggle for...
it all begins with the recruitment process. So it starts off with a DBS check. So we check their criminal records, and if they're on the barred adults list, we get references and we follow them up to make sure everything on the CV is correct. And then once they start, we put them through our own induction training and the care certificate program. And normally you can get an idea from the questions that are being asked as to whether this person is inherently caring and kind. After that, they start shadowing some of our staff. We get feedback from those staff as to how they're interacting with the client. And I can tell you, carers are very good at telling if someone else is a very good carer, and they're more than happy to give you that feedback. Well, if we judge that they're suitable to work on their own, to do lone working, then during their first month, there'll be many spot checks, many supervisions to try and continue to ensure we've made the right decision. Yeah. And I could go on and on about what we do after that, but I think that gives you an idea of
the rigor.
The rigor, because you don't want to be making a mistake. And it's also worth saying most of our clients do have mental capacity, so most of our clients would tell us if there was something amiss. But at the same time, not everyone has mental capacity, so it's important that we do our best to make sure everyone is of a top standard.
That's cool. I guess it also helps that you didn't go down the whole VC route because I guess if you had started off saying, I'm going to raise a lot of money and grow this as fast as possible and hire as many carers as possible, the risk there may have been higher, but, you didn't, and you decided to bootstrap the company, which I think is very impressive. Because I almost meet like zero health tech founders who do that. Yeah. But I'd love to talk about that, because I know that you went through YC, your first company, and it was, the standard, how to build a startup experience, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I suppose with a business like this, I didn't want to go down the venture capital route because I didn't want to be working on a 7-year or a 10-year timeline, as those funds are often designed to do. Sometimes they get extended to 12, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, because I saw with this that what mattered first to create a successful business was to offer a service that was well liked, and that it could have a really slow growth at the start. But as you build up a reputation in each geography, and more and more so online on the relevant channels there like Google and homecare.co.uk, that it would become easier and easier to grow faster and faster. And I was a bit concerned that that hockey stick growth would be very flat at the beginning. And it wouldn't be meeting the interest of investors. And okay, maybe I could raise a pre-seed, maybe I could raise a seed, but after that, I didn't see a Series A or a Series B in the future, and I also couldn't see how that would necessarily help
the situation.
I thought it would actually probably just make matters worse. So I decided in this one to just do something, well, I suppose a bit unconventional healthcare. But then also I'd say it's also doable in this. I don't want to say all healthcare founders should not raise venture capital. If you're building a pharma product, I mean, you've really got no choice, have you? It's going to be impossible to bootstrap because it takes so much money to develop. So I don't know. It works for me in this particular business. I'm not sure if it would work for everyone.
Yeah, but how did you find the experience differed between building, the typical almost VC product and then really building like a product where revenue is your only way of survival?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose for me, it was about getting to profitability as quickly as possible without having any sort of negative impact on the service. So I suppose it's still very much based on numbers. It's just looking at a different part of the balance sheet, I guess.
What would your advice to other founders who are considering, do we go down VC or not, be?
I suppose the main question to ask yourselves is, does your business plan look as though you can reach profitability without venture capital? If it's possible, then it's definitely worth considering. I think you'll have a lot more time to focus on your business. You won't have to do any investor updates or anything like that.
No board meetings.
No board meetings. Yeah, no board meetings. So yeah, you'll have a bit more time to focus on your business. But at the end of the day, if you need money, you need money. Yeah. And if it turned out that in 2 years' time, I thought I needed money to get the business to the next level, then I wouldn't say no to venture capital. I just feel as though for this first part of the business's journey, it wasn't necessary.
Awesome. And final question from me. What's the one impact you want to leave on the world with Tiga?
What's the one impact? I mean, I think for me, I want to make it more clear that care can be delivered in a safe and caring manner. Because you read about so many horror stories in the news, whether it's in a care home, a nursing home, or in a domiciliary setting like mine. And I really just want to have a company that is known for always offering a fantastic service, and to demonstrate to the UK and maybe to the broader world that it is possible to have a safe and caring and effective service.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris.
No problem at all. Thank you.